how can you get better in the shortest amount of time possible, and how can you get to the highest level um, that you can be at, and with a limited amount of time. Okay, so those are the two big questions. And the second portion we're focusing on is how do we prepare as competitors for competition, right, in various ways. Okay, so those are two big things. Okay, uh, getting better as fast as we can. Okay, so time being the X factor, and competition preparation, right? When we're speaking about drilling just to drill is one of the most useless activities and biggest time wasters that I can go into talk about. Right, sitting on a mat for an hour and doing an hour's worth of leg drags is like almost completely useless. The function of drilling is to get you good at the mechanics of a certain move. Okay, so drilling is very important. The way that we drill is we usually do about an hour of drilling, okay, an hour to an hour and a half of drilling, depending on the day, and then about 40 minutes of rolling, okay, where we have six-minute matches, so 36 minutes of rolling. So we drill almost twice as much as we train, okay, but we drill with the intention of perfecting the mechanics of a move, not just quick boom, boom, boom. I'm doing leg drags, I'm doing, drop say nagis. We're drilling to perfect the mechanics of certain movements, the mechanics of a sweep, the mechanics of a break, the finishing mechanics on movements. Okay, so we're talking about drilling. One of the best ways to get as good as you can to reach your full potential in the shortest amount of time possible is by drilling with intent. Okay, drill with the intention of increasing the performance and increasing the performance of the mechanics of certain moves, okay, of a sweep, of a submission, of a pass, things like that. When you're drilling, always think about drilling to increase the level of mechanics that you have in whatever given area you're focusing on. Okay, so big question that I get a lot of time, especially with people who are having a hard time moving from the training environment into a competition environment. Should I talk to a sports psychologist or a mental coach to try to help me build that confidence to get me into the competition mode? In my opinion, no. I'm not a big believer that someone can be talked into confidence. I'm not a big believer that someone can pump you up enough or give you the confidence by speaking to you to give you confidence to move into a competition setting. Okay. Like we spoke about before, confidence in this sport comes from positive results in the training environment, in the training room. Okay. The only way that you're going to have confidence to use all of your moves in competition is if you have positive results using those moves in the training room. Okay. If I know two moves in the training room and I know an armbar and I'm great at an armbar and I know a kimura and I'm just okay at a kimura, in competition, if you have the choice, you're going to look for arm bars a lot more of the time. But if you're good at kimuras and you're confident that in training you can hit kimuras and arm bars both equally across the board, in competition you're going to have the confidence now to attack both of those moves equally and not just only go for one move or the other. Okay, so I'm not really a big fan of someone trying to talk confidence into you or give you a speech and next thing you know you're confident. Confidence in the on the competition mat comes from results in the training room. Okay, the more results you have in the training room, the more positive feedback you have when you're trying the moves, the more confidence you're going to have to use those moves in competition. Okay, so the confidence around the confidence that you have on the competition mat is going to come from getting good, learning the moves, learning the mechanics, and then hitting those moves on progressively higher level opponents in the training room until you're confident enough to do it on the competition mat. So this has a few faces to it, managing competition anxiety. People ask me, how do you deal with the anxiety? How do you look so calm when you go out there? All right, and there's a few different answers. Number one, for me at least, the best way to manage the initial competition anxiety would be to compete as much as possible. Okay, when I was coming up from white belt to black belt, and even now, I would just compete in everything that I could, whether it's local nagas, local events, paid events, whatever the case is. I would compete every single weekend if I could, 2 to 3 times a month. The more you compete, the more you get used to it. Okay, everyone, they go out for their first competition and they have big giant adrenaline dump, and they go out, they grab as hard as they can every single grip, and next thing you know, 30 seconds in, they're exhausted. They get out of their first match and they're like, oh my god, that's 4 or 5 minutes and I'm exhausted. The only way for me, at least, to get used to that was just to compete as much as possible and to put myself constantly in those uncomfortable positions until it became natural. Okay. You have to understand, number one, especially at the lower levels, nobody cares if you win. Nobody cares if you lose. Okay. Even at the highest levels in jiu-jitsu, not many people know who we are. It's not really a mainstream sport. So chances are, if you walk around, then if I walk to, the supermarket and I ask people, like 99% of them are not going to have any idea who I am. Okay. So nobody really cares whether or not you win or lose. Even guys, even mainstream, MMA, UFC fighters, a lot of people don't care. I mean, even if they see you go out and get knocked out in the first 10 seconds, guess what? They wake up the next day, they go about their life, and that's it. Maybe they talk about it for a day or two, and then people forget. So it's in the grand scheme of things, your results in competition aren't that big. Right? So you can't, or aren't that important. So you can't make it out to be something that it's more than. Or you have to understand that whether or not you win or lose doesn't really make that big of a difference. On the large scale. Going into competition now for me, competing so much for so long, I've been competing pretty much since I started training, almost 10 years now. Another thing that gives me the confidence and the calming sensation going into competition is that I know, now obviously this isn't the case for everybody, I know that I'm far better at jiu-jitsu than the people that I'm competing against. Okay, I know that, number one, everyone I'm competing against is terrified of me. Okay, it's not fun going out there and knowing that if you make one mistake, the guy's going to submit you. He's going to break your legs, he's going to break your arm, he's going to strangle you. When I go out there, I see every match the same. I'm chasing the guy down, trying to submit him, and he's trying to stall me out. Okay, absolute best case scenario, the guy scores on me. The guy passes my guard. That's it. I'm not worried about being held down and exhausted in positions, and I'm not worried about being submitted. If you aren't worried about anybody in the world being able to hold you down, and you aren't worried about anybody in the world being able to submit you, that takes an immense amount of pressure off of your chest. Okay, which is why pin escapes and submission escapes are very, very important. Okay, the last thing you want is to go in and get pinned for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and you're exhausted trying to escape bottom mounts, and you finally get out, and the guy just passes your guard again, and then you're exhausted, and then you get submitted. Okay, so confidence in your escaping ability is key. A large amount of competition, so that you kind of normalize the feeling of going out and competing in a different environment makes a big difference. And normalizing the competition experience and trying to relate it as closely as possible to training is also a big factor. You have to remember, a promotion, okay, specifically for higher level super fights or even regular events, you have the cameras, the lights, the yelling, the music, the crowd, the coaches screaming, like the drums at ADCC, fireworks going off sometimes. There's a lot that's very different from training The promotion, the show, the organization is trying to make the event more than what it actually is. Okay, so your job as an athlete is to make it no more than what it is. All it is the same thing that you do every single day in a different environment. Everything that's different, the things that are different, aren't the things that matter. The only thing that matters is that it's you and somebody else on a mat training together, competing together, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Every single day when you go into training, it's you, another person on a mat training. Okay? The lights don't make a difference. The young doesn't make a difference. The difference in setting doesn't matter. The lights, the show, none of that matters. Okay, the strobe lights, the effects, none of that matters. Okay, when it comes down to it, it's you and somebody else on the mat fighting for advantage. Okay, so all the things that are different aren't the things that matter. So when I go out to competition, I try to make it as closely related to a normal day of training as possible, so I can think with a clear mind. You see these guys going out and getting pumped up, jumping around, smacking themselves in the face, doing all that kinds of things. When you're that pumped up, you have that much anxiety, you're that tense, you don't think with a clear mind. Okay, it's like trying to do a math problem when you're angry. Okay, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. But when you're calm, cool, and collected, then it's very easy to think. So I go out as calm as I possibly can. Okay, you're going to have some competition nerves. You're always going to. Okay, but I go out as calm as I can so that as the match starts, I can think about things rationally as we're going through the movements. Okay, but I don't want to be as super tense and pumped up so that I'm just doing everything instinctually. I'm constantly thinking about all the moves that are happening as they're going and making calculated decisions on where I want to put my hands and feet and body, etc. Okay, so competing a lot helps anxiety, just getting used to going out there. Having confidence in your escapes helps a lot. Just knowing that at the absolute best case scenario, the guy scores a point on you. That's the worst that can happen. Not a big issue. And normalizing competition to make it as closely relatable as possible to a normal day of training. Understanding that the change in setting, the change in an opponent, and all the lights in the show and everything going on around you, everything that's different aren't the things that matter. At the end of the day, it's you and someone else on the same mat that you train on fighting each other. Okay, it's just two people on the mat. That's the only thing that matters. Right? You do this every single day. Right? And knowing that you do that every single day, just in a different setting, takes a lot of the pressure off your chest as well. Okay, so there's a couple answers to this. And those, for me, are the things that help me most with my competition anxiety. And there's always going to be competition anxiety, but that's how I was able to manage it. That's why you don't want to go out and still. You can never make it the same as training where there's no anxiety. But you go out and you get used to it. That's why I look so cool and calm. I go out and I manage the anxiety fine. I go out to the biggest matches, ADCC, and once I get my first match is usually my worst. That's when I'm most nervous when I show up. But then once I have my first match, second match, I get better through the day. But once you get used to it, it's easy. It's just the initial response to that, the shock of having all the eyes on you. Usually our camps are about a month. I have about a month notice till a competition, unless it's a set date like Nogi Worlds or ADCC or something like that, or like we know a year or two in advance. A month out, I'll start by doing my camp, and I don't really think about it too much a month out. To be honest, I just am doing the things that we do. I do whatever kind of camp, whatever kind of training that I have to for that specific tournament or athlete going in, and I start to post online here and there. Like I start to have a little mental warfare a month out, saying that no one stands a chance or things like that. But as far as a month out, I try to stay relatively distanced from the competition so that I can focus more on just preparation more than anything. And then as we get down towards, we'll do a week later and then the day of in the following scenes. But a month out, I try to stay almost as distant as I can from the actual competition date, just so I don't stress over it. I don't lose sleep over it. And here and there I'll post some things and talk some shit. But a month out's still pretty far away, and I tend to stay relatively distant from that actual day of competition.